The magnificent, ancient meeting chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with subdued conversations. Representatives from dozens of old, powerful, and self-satisfied species gathered around the grand circular table. The crystalline-shelled xylars glimmered under the chamber's ambient light. The massive, reptilian Cthar delegates dominated their section with their imposing presence. The ethereal, energy-based forelags hovered with dignified aloofness above their designated positions. High Counselor Forelag, the supreme leader of the council, presided over the session with distant authority. His energy form pulsed with a deep blue hue that betrayed his disdain for emerging species. Beside him sat Grand Marshal Cthar, the supreme commander of the council's military forces. The massive reptilian exuded confidence in the overwhelming power of his grand armada. Across from them, Chief Scientist Xylar adjusted his crystalline appendages, his arrogance regarding the council's technological superiority evident in every movement. "The next item on our agenda," announced Forelag, his voice resonating through the chamber without requiring amplification, "is a request from a newly FTL-capable species calling themselves humans from the planet Earth. They seek observer status and a minor trade agreement." A subtle wave of amusement rippled through the chamber. Cthar's scaled lips curled into what passed for a smile among his kind. "Intelligence," Forelag continued, nodding to a junior Cthar officer standing near a holographic projector. Lieutenant Drax, Cthar's intelligence officer, stepped forward and activated the projector. A three-dimensional image of a bulky, ungainly spacecraft materialized in the center of the chamber. "The human vessel designated Explorer," Drax explained, his tone barely concealing contempt. "Their technology is primitive by our standards. Chemical rockets for atmospheric launch, a rudimentary jump FTL drive, bulky spacecraft design, and virtually no aesthetic considerations." Chuckles echoed around the chamber as council members examined the vessel. The Explorer indeed looked clumsy compared to the sleek, elegant designs favored by most council races. Xylar raised a crystalline appendage. "If I may, High Counselor." At Forelag's nod, he continued, his voice reedy and precise. "I've analyzed their technological development trajectory. Their FTL solution is centuries behind our standard. They rely on fossil fuels for much of their planetary energy needs. Their weapon systems are kinetic and nuclear-based, with minimal energy weapon development." He gestured dismissively. "Nothing that would concern a civilization such as ours." Cthar snorted. "Their military capabilities are equally unimpressive. No significant space-based defenses, no unified planetary command structure, and their largest vessels could be disabled by our smallest patrol craft." His massive claws tapped on the table. "They pose no threat whatsoever." Forelag's energy form pulsed. "Send in the Earth Ambassador." The grand doors at the far end of the chamber opened, and a solitary human female entered. Ambassador Ilera Vance walked with measured steps toward the center of the chamber, her posture straight but not rigid, her expression composed. She was tall for her species, with dark skin, close-cropped silver hair, and eyes that surveyed the room with quiet determination. "Esteemed members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice clear and steady, "I bring greetings from Earth and the United Nations Space Authority. We come in peace and with respect for the established civilizations that have mastered the stars long before us. Earth seeks merely observer status within your esteemed body and limited trade rights to facilitate cultural and technological exchange." She continued, outlining Earth's proposal with diplomatic precision, emphasizing humanity's desire to learn and cooperate peacefully. Throughout her presentation, Ambassador Vance maintained a respectful tone, but there was an underlying firmness in her voice and a steady resolve in her eyes that a more perceptive observer might have noted. When she finished, Forelag's energy form flickered briefly. "The Council acknowledges Earth's petition. We shall consider your request and inform you of our decision in due course." His tone conveyed the polite dismissal for what it was. Ambassador Vance bowed slightly. "Thank you for your consideration, High Counselor. Earth awaits your wisdom." She turned and exited the chamber with the same measured dignity with which she had entered. As soon as the doors closed behind her, the room erupted in barely concealed mockery. "Did you see their vessel designs?" One Xylar delegate chittered. "It's as if they built them from discarded industrial components." Thar laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "And they think they're ready for council membership? They've barely left their planetary cradle." Forlag would have smiled if his energy form had possessed a mouth. "We shall consider their request until they develop something worthy of our attention, perhaps in a few centuries." The laughter was interrupted by a junior communications officer who rushed to Kthar's side, clearly agitated. The marshal's expression shifted from amusement to concern as he listened to the whispered report. "High Counselor," Kthar announced, silencing the room. "Our patrol fleet in the Oriones Expanse reports detecting primitive Earth vessels conducting survey operations deep within the disputed region." The Oriones Expanse, a resource-rich sector that the Council had claimed but had not fully colonized, lay uncomfortably close to Earth's newly expanded exploration range. Murmurs of indignation spread through the chamber. Forlag's energy form darkened with displeasure. "They petition us for membership while simultaneously encroaching on Council territory? This shows either remarkable audacity or profound ignorance." "Likely the latter," Xylar interjected. "They probably don't even understand proper spatial claims protocols." Forlag considered for a moment, then addressed Kthar. "Marshal, dispatch a task force to politely escort these Earth vessels out of Council space. A show of our technological superiority should serve as an effective deterrent against future incursions." Kthar bowed his massive head. "It shall be done, High Counselor." Vice Admiral Greyvax is in the sector with a suitable force. The humans will learn their place. The assembled delegates nodded in satisfaction, confident that the matter would be resolved quickly and without complication. None of them noticed the small recording device that Ambassador Vance had legally but discreetly left active during her departure, transmitting the Council's post-presentation discussion to her waiting shuttle. Vice Admiral Greyvax stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Dominion, watching the tactical display with an expression of disdain. The Earth's survey fleet, if 5 small vessels could be called a fleet, appeared as insignificant markers on the massive holographic projection. "Pathetic," he muttered, adjusting his ceremonial collar. Greyvax was a Kthar of distinguished lineage, his scales bearing the distinctive gold patterning of the military aristocracy. He had served with distinction in the Outer Rim campaigns, though critics quietly noted that his promotions owed more to his bloodline than battlefield brilliance. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "Let's get this over with." The communications officer complied, and Greyvax straightened to his full impressive height as the channel opened. "Attention Earth vessels. This is Vice Admiral Greyvax of the Galactic Council Grand Armada. You are trespassing in Sovereign Council territory. You will cease all operations and depart immediately or face consequences." After a brief pause, a response came through. The bridge crew observed with curiosity as the image of a human male appeared on the main view screen. He appeared middle-aged by human standards, with features suggesting East Asian ancestry, a calm demeanor, and the uniform of an Earth Space Command officer. "This is Captain Kenji Tanaka of the Earth Survey Vessel Horizon. Greetings, Vice Admiral Greyvax. According to our understanding of galactic law and the Treaty of Proxima, the Oriones Expanse is designated as unclaimed space open to scientific exploration. Our mission is purely scientific and non-military in nature. We respectfully decline to withdraw." Greyvax felt his temper rise at the human's polite but firm refusal. He cut the communication with a slashing gesture. "Insolent primitive," he snarled. "Move the battle group into intimidation formation. Target their lead vessel with weapon systems, but hold fire. Let's see how brave they are when staring down Council weaponry." The Council vessels moved with practiced precision, surrounding the Earth ships in a classic encirclement pattern. The intimidation formation was a standard tactic used against lesser species. Overwhelming in appearance, but careful to avoid actual conflict that would require filing reports. Lock targeting systems on their command vessel, Greyvax ordered. Fire a warning salvo. Close enough to make them feel the heat, but not to cause damage. The weapon's officer complied, and brilliant streaks of energy lanced out from the Council vessels, deliberately passing mere meters from the Earth ship's hulls. The bridge crew of the Dominion watched expectantly, waiting for the panic and hasty retreat that typically followed such displays. It never came. Instead, something extraordinary happened. The Earth vessels' hulls suddenly shimmered with an unexpected energy field. The Council's sensor systems began reporting inconsistent readings, their targeting locks failing as sophisticated electronic countermeasures disrupted their systems. "What's happening?" Greyvax demanded as his tactical display dissolved into chaotic data streams. Before anyone could respond, one of the smaller Earth escort vessels simply vanished from its position. A heartbeat later, alarm screamed as it reappeared directly behind one of Greyvax's cruisers, having performed what should have been an impossible short-range FTL jump within a star system. "Impossible," barked the tactical officer. "Their primitive jump drives can't." The officer's protest was cut short as the Earth vessels responded to the Council's warning shots with precision fire of their own. Concentrated plasma beams and guided projectiles struck with surgical accuracy, targeting propulsion and weapon systems while carefully avoiding critical life support sections. Within minutes, 3 Council vessels reported significant damage, while the Earth ships remained virtually untouched, their point defense systems having easily intercepted the few hasty counterattacks Greyvax had managed to order. "Cease fire. Regroup," Greyvax shouted, his composure shattered. This was not how the encounter was supposed to unfold. These weren't the reactions of a primitive species cowering before superior technology. This was the coordinated response of a force that had expected the confrontation and prepared accordingly. As the battered Council formation pulled back to defensive positions, Captain Tanaka's image appeared again on the view screen, his expression as calm as before. "Vice Admiral Greyvax, we consider your unprovoked weapons discharge an act of aggression. We have responded with proportional force to ensure our safety. We will continue our scientific mission as planned. Any further hostile actions will be met with appropriate defensive measures." Tanaka out. The transmission ended, leaving Greyvax staring at the blank screen, scales pale with shock and rage. After a moment of stunned silence, he found his voice again. "Send a priority communication to High Command," he ordered, his tone hollow. "The Earth vessels have displayed unexpected capabilities and have refused to withdraw. Request instructions." As the message was transmitted across light years to the Council's central worlds, Greyvax could not shake the feeling that something had gone terribly wrong, that he had somehow sprung a trap rather than taught a lesson. He was right. The Council chamber, which hours earlier had rung with laughter at Earth's expense, now hummed with tension as Greyvax's report was received and analyzed. Forlag's energy form pulsed with angry red patterns, while Kthar paced the floor, his massive tail sweeping dangerously close to the legs of nearby delegates. "This is outrageous," Kthar roared. "Unprovoked resistance against a lawful Council enforcement action, and with technology they shouldn't possess." Xyler was frantically reviewing the sensor data from the encounter, his crystalline appendages clicking with agitation. "It doesn't make sense," he muttered. "Their ECM systems outperformed our latest models. And that localized FTL jump, the power calculations alone should have been beyond their computational abilities." Forlag's voice cut through the chamber like a cold wind. Whether they developed these capabilities themselves or acquired them through less savory means is irrelevant. The fact remains that they have openly defied Council authority and inflicted damage on Council vessels. A junior delegate timidly raised a tentacle. "Perhaps we should reconsider diplomatic engagement? If their technology is more advanced than we thought." "Appeasement," Kthar interrupted with a snarl. "That would only encourage further aggression. No, this requires a decisive response. These humans must learn that defiance of the Council carries severe consequences." Xyler's analysis complete, he addressed the Council with forced confidence. The sensor data suggests they may have a few isolated technological advantages, likely stolen or purchased from rogue elements. But their overall development level remains centuries behind ours. They cannot possibly stand against a proper military response. Forlag's energy field stabilized into a pattern indicating resolution. Then a proper military response they shall receive. Marshal Kthar, you will personally command a punitive expedition. Take a significant portion of the Grand Armada, enough to overwhelm any resistance and establish a blockade of their home system, if necessary. This Earth must be taught respect. Kthar thumped his chest in salute. With pleasure, High Counselor. I shall assemble the fleet immediately. As the council chamber erupted in plans and preparations, none present paused to consider whether they might be making a catastrophic miscalculation based on pride rather than prudence. Meanwhile, in the underground complex housing Earth's Strategic Command, Ambassador Vance delivered her report to General Marcus Thorne. The general, a middle-aged man with close-cropped gray hair, dark skin, and eyes that conveyed both intelligence and ruthlessness, listened without interruption as she recounted the council's dismissive response and their subsequent reaction to the Oriones' encounter. When she finished, Thorne nodded slowly. So they took the bait. Exactly as anticipated. They did, Vance confirmed. The control technology reveal in the Oriones' expanse had precisely the effect our behavioral analysts predicted. Instead of reassessing their assumptions about our capabilities, they've interpreted it as a challenge to their authority that must be crushed. Thorne turned to the massive holographic display dominating the center of the command room. With a gesture, he brought up a strategic map of the Oriones sector. Operation Hubris is proceeding on schedule. Then, Captain Tanaka's task force performed admirably, revealing just enough of our capabilities to provoke the Council without exposing our true technological level. Vance studied the map, noting the positions of hundreds of Earth vessels that remained invisible to Council sensors. Will we proceed with Phase 2? Yes, Thorne confirmed. The Council is committing a substantial portion of their fleet, just as we hoped. Kthar's aggressive tendencies and the Council's technological arrogance are playing directly into our hands. He tapped to control, and the display shifted to show detailed schematics of Earth's true military assets. The Spectre-class stealth destroyers, invisible to conventional detection methods. The Athena battlefield management AI, capable of predicting enemy tactics and coordinating thousands of vessels within human precision. The phase-shifting torpedoes and localized gravity manipulation weapons that could bypass any known shielding technology, all developed in secret over decades, while Earth deliberately projected an image of technological backwardness to the galactic community. We've studied them for 30 years, Thorne said quietly. Every encounter, every skirmish with other species, every piece of technology we could legally or covertly acquire. We've built our entire defensive doctrine around defeating the Council's specific approaches to warfare. He looked at Vance, his expression grim. They're bringing a significant force, but it won't be enough. Not against what we've prepared. Inform all commands. Operation Hubris is entering final phase. The Council has made their choice. Kthar stood proudly on the command deck of his flagship, the Imperator, the most powerful vessel in the Council fleet. Around him, the cream of the Grand Armada had assembled. 20 capital ships, 40 cruisers, and over 100 escort vessels. It was a force that had subjugated entire star systems with its mere appearance. A glorious day for the Council, he rumbled to his command staff. We shall teach these upstart humans the price of defiance. The Armada emerged from FDL in perfect formation at the edge of the Oriones system. Long-range sensors immediately began scanning for the Earth presence, detecting only a small outpost on a minor asteroid and a handful of vessels. Kthar's lips curved in a predatory smile. Transmit the ultimatum. Moments later, his communications officer reported, no response from the Earth forces. Marshal. As expected, Kthar replied. They cower in silence. Prepare the attack formation. We shall reduce their outpost to dust as an example. The Grand Armada moved forward in a textbook assault pattern, weapons charging, shields at maximum. Thar watched with satisfaction as they approached the seemingly insignificant Earth defenses. "Fire the first salvo," he ordered. Brilliant energy beams lanced out from dozens of Council vessels, striking the asteroid outpost and creating spectacular explosions. Cheers erupted on the Imperator's bridge. The celebration lasted exactly 3 seconds. Without warning, sensor alarms screamed across the fleet as hundreds, then thousands, of Earth vessels simply appeared in space around them, not arriving through conventional FTL entrances, but materializing as if they had been there all along, invisible until this moment. "Impossible," gasped the sensor officer. "They're everywhere." Thar stared in disbelief at the tactical display. The Earth fleet had formed a perfect three-dimensional encirclement of his forces. The vessels were unlike anything seen in the initial encounters, sleek, angular craft with strange geometric patterns across their hulls, emitting energy signatures unlike any known technology. Before he could issue orders, the Earth fleet opened fire with devastating coordination. Phase-shifting torpedoes passed straight through the Council's most advanced shields as if they didn't exist, materializing inside ships to detonate against critical systems. Localized gravity weapons created microsecond singularities that twisted and crushed hull sections. Subsonic wave generators induced catastrophic harmonics in the crystalline structure of Council vessels, causing them to shatter from within. And coordinating it all was the Athena AI, analyzing every Council countermeasure in real time and adapting faster than organic minds could respond. Evasive maneuvers. Thar bellowed. "Return fire. Launch all fighters." But it was already too late. The Council formation disintegrated as ships attempted to break the encirclement individually, each becoming isolated and vulnerable. Thar watched in horror as one of his most powerful dreadnoughts was systematically dismantled by a swarm of small, autonomous Earthcraft that moved with impossible speed and coordination. On the Imperator's bridge, chaos reigned. Systems failed across the ship as Earth electronic warfare penetrated their most secure networks. Weapons fired randomly or not at all. Communications devolved into a cacophony of distress calls and contradictory orders. A massive impact rocked the flagship, throwing Thar against the control panel. Through a shattered view screen, he witnessed 3 Spectre-class destroyers executing a synchronized attack run, their weapons carving through the Imperator's once impenetrable armor. "This cannot be happening," he gasped, green blood trickling from a wound on his scaled head. His communications officer, voice trembling, reported, "Marshal, we've lost contact with 80% of the fleet. The remainder report critical damage and are attempting emergency FTL jumps." Thar tried to process this information through a mind clouded by shock and concussion. The Grand Armada, his Grand Armada, was being annihilated by a species they had laughed at mere days ago. The tactical display showed the grim reality. Council vessels were being systematically disabled or destroyed with surgical precision. Earth casualties appeared negligible, if they existed at all. "Prepare for emergency jump," Thar ordered, his voice hollow. "We must warn the Council." His words were cut short as a final, devastating barrage struck the Imperator, shattering its FTL drive and primary power systems. As darkness claimed the bridge and emergency systems struggled to maintain life support, Thar's last conscious thought was the realization that he had led the pride of the Council fleet into the most one-sided defeat in its history. The once grand chamber of the Galactic Council now felt cold and shadowed. Where delegates had recently laughed and sneered at Earth's supposed primitiveness, they now sat in stunned silence. Many seats empty as representatives huddled in emergency sessions elsewhere. High Counselor Forlag's energy form had dimmed to a pale, sickly blue. Beside him, Chief Scientist Xyler, stripped of his prestigious position but required to attend this session, hunched in disgrace. The seat normally occupied by Grand Marshal Thar remained conspicuously empty. "The reports are confirmed," said a junior military officer, his voice echoing in the silent chamber. The punitive expedition has been destroyed. Of 167 vessels, only 23 managed to return, all with critical damage. Grand Marshal Kthar is presumed dead or captured. The Imperator has been destroyed. A low murmur of disbelief swept through the chamber. "How?" demanded a Xylar delegate, crystalline appendages quivering with emotion. "How could a primitive species—" "They were never primitive," interrupted Xylar, his voice hollow with the weight of his failure. "The technology they displayed, it wasn't stolen or purchased. It was theirs, developed in secret while presenting a facade of backwardness to the galaxy. A deliberate deception," Forlag said, his energy form fluctuating with distress. "A trap, and we walked directly into it." The holographic projector in the center of the chamber activated, displaying a message addressed to the Galactic Council. The sender, Earth Strategic Command. With reluctance bordering on dread, Forlag authorized the transmission. General Marcus Thorne appeared, seated at a simple desk, his expression impassive. "High Counselor Forlag, members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice calm and measured. "The Orione's expanse is now under Earth's protection. Any unauthorized incursion will be considered a hostile act and responded to accordingly. We trust that our capabilities have been adequately demonstrated." The message ended abruptly, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. There was no demand for negotiations, no ultimatum, no request for surrender, just a statement of fact backed by overwhelming military power. "They don't even want to talk to us," whispered one delegate in horrified realization. The council erupted into chaos. Accusations flew between species that had coexisted peacefully for centuries. Demands for explanations, for accountability, for new leadership echoed through the ancient chamber. "We should form a new coalition. We need to negotiate with Earth. Immediately. The outer colonies must be protected." Forlag tried to maintain order, but his authority, like his energy form, had diminished beyond recovery. The Council, which had stood for millennia as the unchallenged power in the galaxy, was fracturing before his eyes. In a quiet corner of the chamber, a young diplomatic aide named Taris sat alone, watching the collapse of everything he had once revered. He had been present at Ambassador Vance's presentation, had heard the mockery that followed her departure, had witnessed the casual arrogance with which the Council had dismissed Earth's capabilities. He recalled Vance's eyes, steady, observant, revealing nothing of the power her species secretly commanded. He reviewed the reports of the battle. The Grand Armada, pride of the Council, reduced to wreckage in minutes by weapons that defied the Council's understanding of physics. The silence that had followed Earth's victory was more terrifying than any threat. They had not demanded territory or reparations. They had not sought to capitalize on their victory. They had simply established a line and walked away, confident that the demonstration had been sufficient. Taris understood now what his elders had failed to grasp. The laughter of the Council had been met with the crushing of their armies, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The age of Council dominance had ended not with a negotiated transition of power, but with a demonstration of technological superiority so complete that negotiations were deemed unnecessary. In the emptying chamber, as delegates rushed to emergency meetings and evacuation preparations, Taris remained seated, contemplating a future where humanity, not the ancient council races, would shape the destiny of the stars. And somewhere in that future, he knew, the laughter had stopped for good.